Welcome to Flipside, our special TV program where we bring you the other side of the news. Well, today we will focus on youth and cultural development. In today's episode, we will delve into the importance of cultural development for young people and explore how it can shape and empower them in today's fast-paced and diverse world. We hope to shed light on the significance of cultural traditions, practices and heritage in nurturing the sense of identity, the sense of belonging and community among the younger generation, my generation. We will delve into the role that young people play in preserving and promoting their cultural heritage, showcasing their innovative approaches to bridging the gap between tradition and modernity or globalization. We will also discuss the challenges that young people face when engaging in cultural development activities and explore effective strategies for overcoming these obstacles. We will learn from influential youth leaders and experts who have successfully implemented cultural development initiatives, uncovering their insights and their best practices. So joining us today is Eduje Ogenero. He's actually the Urobo Students President from University of Benin. The way he is dressed, my God, I feel intimidated, but he's the perfect example of the Urobo culture today. Their outfits, you're looking so good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so we also have another person who seated very close to me here. He has also done this university work, but is now on a higher scale. I'm talking about Comrade Maxine Otienye Ode, member representing Warri Federal Constituency in the Niger Delta Youth Parliament. Good to have you, sir.
My pleasure.
Welcome. So don't mind the three of us with the way we're dressed, you know. This is about fashion, they say, is an expression. There are people who dress like this. There are people who would prefer to use the comrade style of dressing, still Nigerian, but tuning it down. And there are those who would just go all out and look so much like Ogenero, you know, representing the typical Urobo man. I respect you. Welcome, Tess. Okay, so we're going to talk about youth and culture and how we can develop the sense of pride of our culture, the challenges that youth are facing when it comes to building an identity. You know, an average young person is growing up today. They don't even know if they want to learn their language. They don't know if it's going to make their accent be local, in quote. They don't know if they dress too traditional. People will term them not classy enough. So there's an identity crisis at our hands, and we need to address that. So, well, I think I'll start with you, Comrade. Now, how do you think cultural development is for young people and the overall well-being of the community? How important do you think this cultural development is for the community?
Thank you so much. Yeah, and maybe we didn't have this part of it to my introduction. Currently, like you said, I've moved up from being the Parakmo head, the president of the National Association of Delta State Ijaw Student University of Benin, to representing my people at the Niger Delta Youth Parliament, and to being a community chairman. So I have a lot of all this in hands. It is very important that the youths out there be made to understand, to see the importance of culture. Because culture is actually the identity of any person. You are nothing without a cultural identification. So it's important that youths are made to understand this. For instance, I may not be dressed fully in the Ijaw regalia. Here on my design, I can't wear anything without the representation or the signature of the Ijaw man. This is a boat and the paddle. All my attires, all my native whatever has something, that basket, the fish, and all that. That's how it is. It is what I represent, and that is how important it is for every youth. Identification of culture. It is the way to go.
Okay. Ogenero, what role do you think youth can play in promoting and preserving cultural traditions and practices. Not to forget that religion is also a big issue for us. So it's clashing a whole lot with our cultural beliefs. So what role can youths play to preserve this? Because after us now, we'll start having children that will take over. It's what we give them that they will take. So what can we do?
Okay, talking about the role of the youth in preserving culture, we would admit, vis-a-vis the religious angle and our own traditional activities, that there are some differences, and we've been able to identify the fact that we have some cultural beliefs that are not in conformity with natural justice, but not to throw the baby away alongside the dirty water in the bath. So our culture is very important to preserve. The youth has a role and a major role to play because we are the generation of tomorrow. We can do this by way of our outfit, like I'm looking. I go out like this, and anybody who sees me says, Urobo man, Urobo man, Urobo man. It tells my fellow young people that, oh, it's possible. You don't have to be shy. You don't have to be timid about your own culture. It doesn't have to be about a particular occasion for you to display your culture. People don't get to see the reason that, okay, maybe on a Sunday they can be on wrapper like me to church. It always has to be an occasion where maybe they say, okay, we are having cultural day in church, and everybody will come in their cultural. They see their culture as an occasional thing, although for some of them it's because of their background, how they were brought up and where they were giving birth to. Some were giving birth to far away from home, but not an excuse to say that we will throw away our culture, because I, as an Urobo president in University of Benin, my secretary was giving birth to here in Benin. He speaks and hears Benin very well, but can write and speak in Urobo as well. So it's about the individual. It's about our interest, where our focus lies. How do we see these things? How do we differentiate that which is diabolic from that which is not? Our culture is sweet. Our culture is very, very interesting. Once you get involved, you begin to see that our culture is a blessing to us. Just as the church prays, so the culture as well. I'm a Catholic by faith, so we do communion and every other thing, like every other congregation that also do that. And you see the pattern of prayer. It's a tradition. It's a culture. Culture is a way of life. So even the Christian faith is a way of life that defines the attitude of the people. So our own culture as youth, in promoting our individual culture, is by way of speaking. Like as a president of Urobo students, I have an Urobo Academy where we teach the language.
Wow.
Although on the online platform, because of school activities, we are still looking for comfortable venues to see how we can do physical classes or sessions from time to time. So these language classes help to elucidate these persons who are not familiar with their language on how to pronounce or know certain things about their language, because some of them, the fear is that, oh, they don't know anything about it, so they feel disinterested, or they feel like, oh, they cannot cope. But when you begin to show them love, you begin to tell them that, okay, we can do this, you can do it, you can learn it, they will begin to come around, and in time, they will understand that culture is beautiful.
I feel so happy that at least I might not be dressed with our Benin accessories or dressed in Isako clothes because my husband is Isako. At least I can speak Benin and I can understand Isako. Okay, so what are some challenges, coming that the young people are facing at the moment when it comes to engaging in cultural development activities? What are some of the challenges they might also have to face? Those who are watching us right now and they feel motivated and say, okay, everything cultural, I would start paying attention, showing interest, engaging, volunteering. But what challenges will they most likely encounter that may discourage them?
Okay, the truth, it must have begun somewhere, that people are made to see that their culture is inferior to certain culture. From the very days of the colonialism, there's this cliche, white collar job. That actually moved a lot of persons away from the traditional or the cultural ways of life, business activities, means of sustainability to another pattern of life. And so those people who eventually got into that white collar job,
Mentality.
in quotes, see the other persons out there as inferior. They see you as a bushman. Like my brother here, Ogenero, some persons from the Robo ethnic nationality may see him and say, see this bushman, you know, just because he decides to to showcase his tradition or his culture in respect of dressing. Some persons just see him as maybe not informed. They have several names they could want to attribute or call such persons. That's actually the challenge. A lot of persons take it. There's some children, not even children, adults. They take pride in the fact that they can't speak their language.
I've seen.
They see those who speak the language or who are fully identified and committed to the language as not civilized. So these are the challenges. So in a situation where a youth, a young person has such mentality, he therefore sees nothing wrong with not identifying with his culture. Rather, he sees himself or herself as superior to that person. So that is a very great challenge. But the way forward is, like I said, this thing should be made, if there are ways like Ogenero is doing, but beyond that, it should be made to, the society should be made, like in a program like this, it should be made to understand that your culture is your identity. It was Dr. J.K. Agrida said, he who is not proud of his color is not fit to live. You cannot take the culture of another person as superior to your culture. So this orientation here and there, just as we have it here, could go a long way in reorienting or in changing the mindset of so many persons.
Interesting. You know that when you mentioned people being ashamed of even speaking their language, who are proud that they don't speak, neither do they understand. I remembered when I was in secondary school, I actually started learning how to speak Benin in secondary school. I'm the last child in my home, and it's a very large family at that. So everybody just had this now baby mentality. So they pamper me, they pet me. And my parents were both teachers. So speaking good English was like a normal thing in my house. But my dad had a law. You only speak correct English, like he calls it, or you speak Benin in the house. Pidgin English was prohibited. Even though it's still one of the languages we enjoy today and celebrate, he will tell you, you will learn it whether you like it or not. If you come outside, you will hear it, so don't speak it in my house. I could only speak correct English, so you tell me something in Benin, I'll be looking at you. So if you want me to do something, you have to speak English. My dad, he noticed early, he was always traveling. When he came one day and told me to go do something, of course I was staring at him like, I don't understand. You say it in English. Ah, you said what? And from that day, they made a law just for me. I cannot ask for food unless I speak Benin. I don't get extra money unless I ask in Benin. It was horrible. It was one of the worst moments of my life. But I had to learn because I needed to eat biscuits and all those other things. Ah, dear God. And I still had friends who, till today, cannot understand their language. They can't speak. And your parents don't actually feel like it's anything wrong. So now, as youth leaders, what activities do you think we can put up? Maybe, because let's also use this platform to get government involved, get people involved. I like the idea Ogenero has. That's working in school. Many people will not even know. They are not even informed something like this is even going on. And even when they find out, is it free? Do they, if it's not free, can they afford it? So, but what can we do? What more can we do on a larger scale to get our Nigerian youth to learn their language, understand their history, and then become proud of their culture? So you both will answer, but let me start with you, Ogenero.
Okay. When we talk about government involvement or going to a larger scale in light of promoting cultural heritage, we can see that most times, if you talk about the government, we are the government, because we say democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. What can we do for ourselves? Like somebody rightly quoted in American, that not what American will do for you, but what can you do for America? What can we do for ourselves? There is this Elvis Huto, an engineer, who gives scholarship to Urobo students in his local government. They apply and he gives them scholarship on random basis. They pick, and whoever gets lucky wins and gets that scholarship. He uses it to advocate the language, advocate his culture, advocate his heritage. If you are not from there, or you are from another ethnic nationality, you can see what your good brother is doing, and you take it to your own ethnic nationality. How do we bring this home? How do we get our children always coming back? Because culture is one thing that brings people together. Culture brings people together, like the Igbo New Yam Festival that they always have annually. It brings people from all over the world to their various locations where they are having such festivals. Festivals like that, if they are televised, it also helps to expatiate the culture. It also helps to show the beauty of this culture. And our cultural crafts also, if they are well publicized, and government now raises or opens an avenue for funding for these cultural crafts, bead making, cultural hairstyling, or what have you, it will actually motivate the youth to know that there is an entrepreneurial opening in culture. Culture brings about self-employment. You begin to see how you can process raw things into finished goods because you are involved. You are in the rural. You don't see the rural setting as a place for only the old. You go there and utilize the resources that are there. You come, you learn the Western way in education, and you see what you can use it to impact in your locality. How do you see cassava? What can you get out of cassava if you are in a place that is favorable for cassava planting? How do you expound it? What do you make out of it? Those are the things that I feel the government can do, open an avenue for persons who need funding, capital, to go into these self-employed ventures in culture-related activities for them to exploit, for them to be given the opportunity. And the social media is there. You cannot always rely on the press to help publicize these days, but with social media, you can be everywhere at the same time. So the use of social media to publicize whatever we do, it gives room for those that are not here to see the beauty of what we have here, because according to my Reverend Father, he says culture is the coloration in which God has used in beautifying the world. So this diversity is that color blend that gives real beauty to the world. Without culture, the world would just be not so beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Comrade, any other suggestion?
Okay. Yes. I think what urban rural migration, a number of persons do not even know their roots. Though we do not put this blame all the time on the doorstep of the government, we cannot always do that. Individuals, families should learn to ensure that they take their, as soon as they start raising children, ensure that your children touch base with where they are from. That is one. When that is done, because culture is beautiful. You see some of those children from the community. You see raw talent. In most cases, they are even more academically intelligent than the ones who go about the so-called phonics and all that. So government should, as a matter of urgency, ensure that life is made comfortable. In my community, for instance, yesterday I was somewhere on this advocate. I never knew I would be here. I was with the commissioner representing the zone nation, the zone ethnic nationality at Desopadek. I told him, the school in my community is dilapidated. These children need to see the need, or the parents need to see the need to keep their children in those schools. Because as soon as they move over from those schools to Warri, there's a disconnect culturally. So government in this wise should also try to ensure that the facilities are there. Give them school, give them water, give them light, and so they have no need coming to Warri where the cultural heritage or practices, activities are disjointed. I'm not saying that the Warri has its own, but let those who will be there be there. No, we must not all move to town, to school. That's one. Then on another hand, it's all, like I said, it shouldn't be government. I've said this before. Parents personally has said it. I was in privilege. I schooled in my first degree was in the East, Enugu State University. Came back to University of Benin. Thank God some of these places now have universities. If I have my way, school in your place, primary, nursery, primary, secondary school, if it's possible, university, then you come out later to also, you would have imbibed completely, almost completely, the culture of your place. I know what I'm saying. I suffered a lot from this. As we speak, I was the president of Izona. I wouldn't say it here or there. There are certain deficiencies with the language. And so I decided, I basically stay more in the village. I'm a lawyer. I basically stay more in the village. Luckily for me, I have something doing there. They gave me the position as committee chairman because of certain things like this. And I said, the only thing I can do for the people, I never knew this program was up here. I said, the only thing I can do for my people is to ensure that they touch base with home. Parents, please bring your children to this school. Let it not go into a state. We must not all go to Warri. We must not go to Twin Fountain and other. Let's see what we'll do here. So those two suggestions, parents and then the government provide, that settles.
Unfortunately for some of us, we don't even have a village to run to. Like our village is so open now. Like I'm from Muselu.
Okay.
Like this Muselu here. That's my village. But I'm glad when I have to go to my husband's home.
Okay.
That's still, it's beautiful.
Yes.
The air, everything is good. But you'll be amazed that while you're so confident to go to that village, some other set of people will tell you there are witches there. You can't go to the village. If you go, you die. If you go, you won't prosper.
That's true.
We need a reorientation of our minds. Like, we need so much to be done. Okay, now, and that brings me to this particular question of modernization and culture. With the way we're all dressed now, I'm looking more of the modern, and whether we like it or not, in as much as you're dressed so gorgeously, we can't always look like this every day. The way I'm dressed like this, you can't use this dressing to come and pay bride price on my head.
That's
you
true.
know? So we need to look for how to bridge the gap. So what are some potential ways that we can integrate things like technology, the digital world, that's what youth are speaking now, ICT, into our cultural development efforts? What ways?
Okay. Talking about the use of ICT to promote culture now and the fact of modernity and what is obsolete. We want to say culture is relative and there is a cultural lag. What you are wearing represents a particular culture somewhere in the Western world.
Yeah.
Yes, it came out of colonization and we have to imbibe, and by Nigeria's lingua franca, legitimate language, we are of the English, because we are diversified people, and we cannot say, okay, let's speak Ijaw language, or let's use Efik, or let's use Urobo, or let's use Benin. We cannot just pick one and say, okay, let's ride with Igbo, or let's ride with Hausa. So for that singular fact, we need a unifying factor, and English gives us a base. So, but notwithstanding the fact that English gives us a center to hold on to, we shouldn't neglect our indigenous languages. We shouldn't neglect our indigenous beliefs. We shouldn't neglect our indigenous food. We shouldn't neglect our home training, our cultural training, because there are some culture where stealing is forbidden. And if you grow in such an orientation, no matter the political ladder you climb, you would not want to participate in embezzlement of public funds. That morality, that cultural upbringing will keep you in check every now and then. Like Like my elder brother here, I also schooled in Enugu as well. Yes, I schooled in Enugu, and I know of a fact that in Nsukka, they are married women. If you are a married woman and you commit adultery, there's a very high possibility, if not almost 100%, that you would run mad. Yes. So it's a cultural thing, and it keeps those persons in check from committing those vices. And because culture brings about a lot of
and as
more.
a woman, those are the kind of things we're kicking against, even
Yes.
though it's culture.
Even though it's culture.
You shouldn't restrict.
Yes, it
only
shouldn't be
women.
just for women
Exactly.
alone. There should be the balance.
If the man should
because
cheat, he should
we're,
run mad.
we're in the age of gender equality and gender
Exactly,
balance
and
and every other
feminism.
thing. That is just by the side. Things like that happens, and they help us form. Culture forms who we are, the product we are. But because we've lost touch with our base, we've lost touch with our root, we cannot really tell what is what, and because morality differs as you move. Then when you talk about technology, like I said, our Urobo Academy is basically online for now, because although we're still looking for a physical platform, because you cannot totally write off the physical interactions, even though they are online platforms. But the social media, the press, the media are always in bringing or relating this culture to people that are outside that environment. So you know how the Urobo man is dressed, even though you've not been to the Urobo land before, because of social media. You see people post and they put up their write-up and tag Urobo Day, or like we have in Uwe local government, Uwe Day. You see the social media as a platform where everybody expresses their culture. Some persons come online and they say, oh, I'm dressed in this, I'm dressed in that, I'm adorned in this. This food belongs to this tribe, this food belongs to that tribe. This is how to prepare this kind of meal. This is how to prepare that kind of meal. From those social media handles or platforms, you can learn how to even cook foods that are not of your tribal heritage, that are of others, and you will perfect them very well, because the world has become a global village through the social media. So these are some of the ways you can expand culture using ICT.
All right, and we're talking about youth and cultural development on the show today, and the need for us to embrace our identity more and be proud of what we represent as Nigerians, be proud of what we represent in individual ethnic groups. If you're Benin, be proud of being Benin. There are so many negative things we even say against ourselves. We don't even wait for the white people to condemn us before we start. You hear the narrative of Isoko Dolopia. Isoko people, they're always holding cutlass to fight. No, Ijaw people and terrorism and inside water. Oh no, forget Bini girls, they're all prostitutes. Oh no, just forget an Isham person, that one is a witch. You know, we just have these very negative tags that we use, we spread it, we take it from our country, we go abroad and we tell them that that's who we are. And then they begin to treat us with those negative statements we've uttered. That's what we're trying to change here today. Be proud. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, the discussion continues. Okay, now, while we're off camera, we're talking a little bit about the politics involved in even making all these languages gain a place of relevance in Nigeria. The Yoruba people have done well for themselves. You know, we have this Wazobia culture in our head. If you're not Hausa, you're Yoruba, or you're Igbo, what happens to the rest of us? And when we're even picking government, it usually revolves most times around those people. I know we've had Goodluck Jonathan as a president, but only God knows when it's going to come to some other minor tribes in Nigeria. Now, the politics in putting relevance to the minor, let me call the minorities, how can we resolve that? There's something I see in Nigerian movies in recent time, and I'm so happy when I see what the Yorubas are doing for themselves. The top Nigerian movies online, you cannot miss it now. You see the touch of Yoruba, the language. It used to be Igbo, 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 Igbo at some point. Then Yoruba just came from nowhere, still overtaking. Music self, you want to blow, you must use Yoruba. What's happening to the rest of us? So how can we deal with the politics involved in making us bloom, the minorities? Comrade, let me start with you, then Ogenero, you add yours.
Okay, first, like I said, a lot of our elite, especially in this part, we can't take some things away from the Yorubas. This part, at some point, we weren't really proud of our culture. The average Yoruba man wasn't really proud to declare himself as an Yoruba man. When you meet an Yoruba man somewhere up there, you go there, you greet him, mingle, he tells you, how are you? Or just, I wouldn't just know why. But these things are not same with the Yorubas. The average Hausa man, yes, you speak Hausa, automatically you become his brother. I served in the West during my first, I speak Yoruba very fluently, just for service, and then the school retained me those 3 years. That is not the same here in the South. You are lost. Go and serve as a matter of fact, in my local Ijaw village, where you go with boats there, the people still speak this, they are useless pidgin. It just spoils everything. So, and that's how these things also climb politically. Politically, that's how it climbs. The elites, those who are supposed to be, the unifying factors, are not even there in the first place. Are not there. So it's very important that it's taken very seriously. I was going to say something. The most successful, the very successful young men you can think of, you can see anywhere, they actually are there in the village. That's the truth. The very successful ones, name them if you know of any very successful young man, is there in the village. He may have his house in Abuja in some, but his base, yes. Then those are friends who at some time felt those people are local people, their wishes, they are this, they are that, who end up struggling looking for the so-called white-collar jobs in town, when there are better opportunities there. That I'm talking about the average job man who identifies fully with his people. There in that river, the black gold is there. You have no need coming or hanging around in the city looking for the best you get, maybe some of these struggling jobs. So what I'm saying in essence is that the elites, those who are there, we should take this elitist mentality away. You went to school, you traveled abroad, you go, the next you want to do, you want to stay there in Lagos, cut yourself away from your people, or stay there in Abuja, cut yourself away. No, it shouldn't be. So that makes politically, if that is taken out, that the people are one together, it makes it better. Then you see everybody in one way or the other. I wouldn't want to mention some names and also maybe take more time. I would have mentioned what one or two Robo men are doing. At Delta State alone, the two ministerial position in Delta State went to the Robo. I had 2 articles on that already.
I was even about saying even political positions.
Yes.
The top positions have to go to certain tribes.
Yeah, they went to the Robo. What the job? What's happened? We have people now, but because our people, that's not there. That's just
interesting. Please, your own take on this.
Culture and politics.
Yes.
You know, politics is a game of numbers. And most of the times, when you look at these minority tribes, although I'm not saying we are that up there when we talk about majority in tribes or culture, but some of them see themselves as not capable of putting something forward or playing national politics. Some of them are very comfortable with playing their domestic politics within their states or local government, domineering their base, because believe it or not, every politics is local. But they don't see that reason to aspire for a bigger position. If Wike had gotten the ticket for PDP, he would have contested presidency. Wike is not from a major ethnic group in Nigeria. So, but some persons have just stood behind to say, oh, these are the persons with the number, these are the tribes with the number. You get the ticket, we'll queue behind you. Give us ministerial positions. Give us federal positions. So they don't really find that confidence in them to say, okay, let's take this move, let's aspire. And while they also move politically, they don't take their brothers along. They don't take their brothers along, because when you want to remain dominant in a place, you tend to want to suppress every other rising person. So you become the only point of reference or relevance in that particular ethnic group. That's not what ought to be. And talking about Nollywood, like Kanayo rightly pointed out recently, Nollywood has sold out this sense of big man fashion in the Agbada wear, forgetting that it's a tribal wear for the Hausas. The Agbada is a tribal wear for the Hausas. You see an Urobo man who is going to an Urobo traditional wedding, fully adorned in Agbada. He feels very big and very like he has arrived, forgetting that he is actually wearing somebody's cultural attire. But he's promoting that one. But he has neglected, because it has not been portrayed by the media as the attire for the rich, the attire for those who have made it. So when Nollywood concentrates on you must, to play a big man role in the movie, you must wear an agbada, you must appear in this, you must appear in that, it sends some sense of signal and helps to promote some culture against others. Although I'm not saying they are doing it intentionally, but it is what it is. Because if you see our federal government, you see more of agbada than any other outfit. If you watch the parliament, you see everybody almost on agbada. You can just confuse it that everybody is on agbada there. So things like that also promote culture. You see our politicians dressed in their traditional attire, like our former DSP of Yomagege, almost times on the Urobo attire. It sends a national signal as well that this set of persons exist. Yeah. This set of persons, they are somewhere. Why is he dressed like this? By his appearance, you try to link him to his root. You want to find out why he's looking very different from every other person there. Okay, what's peculiar about him? So politics and culture are two things that cannot necessarily be separated. Although we say we should participate in politics that is devoid of cultural sentiment and bias, but we must also know that there is a need for the minority to also feel belong, because in between Maslow's 5 hierarchy of need is social belonging, that sense of having a place. So where these people, and that's why there's creation of states down to creation of local governments to give minority a level base. But why some persons are very comfortable in those domestic political structure that have been created for them, is one of the perturbing reasons why they've not been aspiring national politics and they've not been growing, and you've not been seeing the impact of minority tribes or cultures in the national politics.
Okay, the love for our culture, the love for our tribe is another thing that we are trying to advocate, but it can also become dangerous when you, I don't know if you can love something too much to become maybe obsession, or I don't know, or extremism. So how can we teach a healthy love to the people? How can we ensure that the love for tribe and the love for our culture does not degenerate to ethnic wars? Okay. We've had so many of those before. We've had in Jos, we've had in Delta, we've had, what am I saying? Almost every tribe. Go to the history books. They are filled with so many wars, ethnic wars. We're fighting ourselves. So what can we do to promote a healthy love that would not end up becoming so extreme?
Oh, okay. Honestly speaking, the strife, the war, the fight, the infighting that had at one point, of course, still taking place today. I was in Ife during the Ife Modaike War. The crisis, of course, I'm an Ijo Shekiri man, caught in between them. As we speak today, the Alaja and Obujo killings every day. If you looking at these things critically, there is no element of cultural disagreement in them. They're just, honestly speaking, they're just the misplacement of priority. People place personal interest, not necessarily because you are Ijo, I am Urobo, or you are Ijo, I'm Shekiri. That's not the problem. That's not the reason for the crisis. The crisis is just because certain persons have placed their selfish gains. All are either politically motivated or economically motivated. Not necessarily because of the difference in the tribe. It's just because what I want to get and what you want to get. I get this and you get this. Okay, so if that is taken care of, we won't be having this crisis. Let's, whatever it's due this, due that, we'll discuss some things here and then we'll raise up some other debate. From the crisis, of course, the Ijo and the Shekiri crisis was simply because something was put somewhere and this one felt cheated. The other said, no, it should have been here. Simply the local government, the Warri Southwest local government. It should be at Ogidigbe. No, why should it be at Ogidigbe? It should be at Ogbijo. Why should it be at Ogbijo? It should be at Oproza. The EPZ project, which is supposed to be one of the biggest projects in Nigeria today, is suffering just because it's at Ogidigbe. No, Baramatu people say it should be at Baramatu. That's just the thing, not because it is a job, but because it is their selfish gains. Take selfishness away, we will live together in harmony and in peace.
Interesting. Okay.
A lot of persons over the years have been tied to stereotype. They assume or they presume that they already know how these persons behave or how these persons will react to things. So they have these assumptions given to them that, oh, if you are an Isha, yeah, you must be a witch. If you are an Urobo man, you must be marrying many wives or
drinking
a lot and being lazy, and at the same time you get. So these stereotypes are there, and they are really keeping people in the dark. They are keeping a lot of persons in the dark, because when you come in open, you begin to learn people's culture and analyze their culture based on their culture, what we know as cultural relativism. You judge people's culture based on their culture, not using your culture as a yardstick to judge their culture, because you are not of the same cultural heritage or origin. So when you begin to say, oh, why not do things from our own perspective, you are beginning to become a stereotype, and that's very unhealthy. That's very unhealthy. Although the love for culture cannot be taken that extreme to the extent where you want to create jobs. You say if you are not an Urobo man, you cannot get employed. If you are not a Benin student, you cannot get admission into the University of Benin. If you are not a Benin indigene, you cannot be admitted into the University of Benin. Or if you are not an indigent of Benin as well, you cannot get admission, or you cannot run for certain political positions in Ekpoma, because you are not. These things are being blown over out of proportion. The love for culture is reciprocal. The same love you have for your culture, you should extend such to the other culture. And that's why the Christian faith teaches the golden rule of doing to others what you want them to do to you. So you should assess people's culture the way you want them to assess your culture. So when you have this in mind and you have this open-mindedness to learn other people's culture as well, like I rightly stated that you can learn other cultural dishes online and master them. If you have that love to learn and expand beyond your cultural heritage, because it's a beautiful word to explore. It's a variety, and culture has given us that variety, and it's the spice of life. So if you are exploring it with joy, you won't be kept or locked down in that stereotype of, oh, these people, you cannot associate with them, you cannot trust them. You've not tested the person. Who says an Isoko person must be stingy? Who says? Who says so? Because I've encountered some persons that they're even more benevolent than those that you've said, oh, normally this person is supposed to be very benevolent. But An Isoko person was that benevolent, and there is this stereotype that, oh, an Isoko man or Isoko woman, you must be stingy. So it's not actually like that. So let's keep an open mind while we practice our culture. Our culture is not the fine art of all. Our culture is not the best, although it's the best to us. But we should know that everybody loves their culture equally, and you should respect each other's boundaries.
Yeah.
That way we won't have strifes.
I think that's how we're going to just end the show today. We love Nigeria. We love our tribes. We need to learn to be positive about our tribe. We need to be positive about other people's, especially when you've left home. You know, you should sell your strength, not publicize your weakness. And we should be careful the things we are adopting from the West. I like the fact that they brought religion. If you like it, good. Don't make it seem as if your religion is superior to another one who is so entrenched in the traditional way of worship. You have a shrine, we have an altar. Everyone prays to God. You know, it starts from these very little things. Don't be too quick to rubbish another person's just because you don't understand why they choose to live that way. Don't copy everything. They started with feminism. We like feminism. I'm a feminist. But feminism is causing a lot of crisis in Africa. Now homosexuality is what they've embraced there. We have a lot of people coming out now, hiding under the guise of cross-dressing, practicing homosexuality. Tomorrow now they'll come, we'll go and copy transgender. Then we'll start having crisis, identity crisis, because this is not what we believe. This is not our tribe. This is not our tradition. This is so borrowed. Abroad, they are even dealing with problems. You see a woman, you don't know if you should address her as Mrs. or Mr. You call her a Mrs., she tell you I'm a man. Or she can tell you I'm a cat. You don't know what to say. So it's just a whole lot. Love yourself, love your tradition, love your culture, document things. That's one of the things that is the big problem for us in Africa. We didn't keep good history records. We even borrow some of our histories from white people, what they wrote down. That might not totally be true. And then you hear the story from a Benin man, you hear a different version of the same story from a Yoruba man. We need to do proper documentation. Technology has come to enhance. Let's not use it and forget ourselves. We should also use those technologies to preserve, because it is what we preserve now we're going to hand over to the next generation after us. I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi. I want to say thank you to two of my guests for being here today. And Ogenera has motivated me. The boats in Comrade's shirts. My next episode, the native I will wear. Oh God, before we run. All right, thank you so much. And just as a sign of identity, why I always say, we'll be back next week with another edition of Flipside. Bye for now.